I just want to thank everyone for being here and want to introduce our session today. This is the Telecom Post-COVID World Virtual Lunch and Learn. And this is our first virtual Lunch and Learn, so we're very excited to have y'all here. Today we'll be getting some great insight from our CEO, Sean Torres. He will be discussing business strategy, things you should be implementing and practicing during this unexpected time, and also the planning that will make your business stronger than ever once this pandemic is over, hopefully soon. We know that a lot of our local businesses are struggling as well as some large corporations, so we really want to take this time and help each other as much as possible. For those of you just joining us, welcome. This educational session will also be available after the Lunch and Learn, and it will be sent out to everyone who registered by the end of the week. We're going to keep this right at an hour, which will include Q&A at the end. So without further ado, Sean, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.
I'm going to mute you for some reason. It's giving me some background noise on your end. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in today. We're very excited to have you here, and I think we got some good information we want to discuss and some of the things that we're doing internally, and just want to give that information out to other companies, departments, whatever it may be. I know we have a mixture of customers on here, some friends, some people that are not customers, some business associates, some vendors. So we appreciate you supporting us, and we hope that this information that we give out today is going to benefit you in some way. So we'll go ahead and get started. I do have a PowerPoint, and it's not a whole lot of slides, so I will not kill you with slide decks. So we'll go ahead and get started. So we really wanted to have this session and focus in on more about what to do after, this whole mess that we have going on, and things that we should be doing now to move ourselves in a positive manner. We all know that there's a lot of negative things that are going on in business communities, and people are hurting, and people are suffering financially. Sales are down, or their businesses are closed, or whatever it may be. So obviously in a time of an epidemic like this, we don't want individuals to make irrational decisions, and we know that it can be hard. And I can tell you, even looking at our organization from a technology perspective, is that you can make irrational decisions because you're kind of in a panic, right? It costs a lot of money to operate. You have people's livelihoods at stake, the way they pay for their families, and it's been one of our core focuses here at In-Telecom, is making sure that we're taking care of our customers, our employees, and business as usual. So some of the things we'll go through today, I'll do a quick introduction on In-Telecom. I'm sure most of you know who we are and what we're about. We'll kind of get into, what you should be doing with your downtime. Do you have a plan, and are you making the best of your time? And then I'd like to switch gears and kind of focus on how to manage the chaos and tips to manage that transition, and some things to think about when going back to the new normal and whatever that is. And then we'll open this up for Q&A. If anybody has questions throughout this, feel free to ask over in the chat session, and we'll make sure we get those answered for you to our best of our ability. So In-Telecom's been around since 2009. Me and a college roommate, Jimmy Burns, who most of you know, had an idea of starting a company as a consultant firm, and kind of built this into a full-service technology firm today. I would have never told you what we were doing today is what our goal was. So our level of success obviously is measured by our customer success. So, our mission has always been customer focused, and we want to make sure that our customers are succeeding, because a lot of the reason that we've had the success that we have had is because of the success of our customers. So we recognize that right now we want people to stay focused and be successful and get to a point where, they are making money, they are doing things very rationally and working in a manner that's beneficial for the organization, because that's what keeps the economy flowing, that's what keeps us flowing. And again, our growth has obviously contributed to our customers' growth. So we just want to say thank you, and we appreciate all of our clients, all of our potentials, everything. We wouldn't be where we're at today without you all. So we'll get into our first topic, and we really wanted to talk about what to do with downtime. I've been talking to a lot of customers. Today we have a little over 4,300 customers. I've been having lots of conversations with customers, vendors, checking in on them and just seeing what they're doing. I've gotten a range from we're not doing anything to we're working on the business and doing the things that we should have been doing years back that we just haven't had the time to do. So I can tell you that's been a lot of the focus that we're doing internally is we're working on internal processes and procedures, as well as supporting some of the customer base and doing some self-development with individual employees and cross-training and you name it, So what we did is we sat back, we looked at, we were having some downtime and had some things that we weren't as busy as we were because we can't go to customer sites and we're not on premise as much. And, so we wanted to keep the employees engaged in the day-to-day operation and what not a better way to do it than to work on the business together as a group. So this is kind of a flow that we did, that we put together that we sat down as groups, and this is based on individual departments at a high level, you name it, and we just really sat down to identify the challenges to what your business is facing today, or maybe what your department is facing. I mean, and if anybody can say that they have no challenges, we're obviously not being realistic with ourselves because we all have challenges. We all have problems that we face every single day that need to get worked on and not just get a Band-Aid on it, So, or what are some of the challenges that we have coming to face, right? And we'll hit that in our next topic when we get into talking about, the next step. Step two is obviously we sat down and we looked at what are solutions for the challenges with several scenarios in mind, right? So think about what that business looks like today and where it's going in the future and where, what needs to be really, really worked on. Like what's the really, really important piece of it, and you got to dig deep sometimes because sometimes it's very difficult to find that underlying issue in your own internal business. And sometimes it's hard to get your employees to come together to really admit those true faults because sometimes it does expose people. And that's just part of the process and getting to the point and getting the problems or the challenges fixed and getting moving to the right place. So why not use the time you have today that your business is shut down or your department is slower or whatever it may be, use that time in a positive manner to work on things that are going to benefit your organization. If you're a nonprofit, what are you doing to think about some of the challenges you're going to face because you can't have these big events? Like I know Miranda's on this call and they just faced one of their biggest, events they have that generates a ton of revenue they don't get to have this year. So that's a challenge for them, right? So we can't buck down and stop. We have to figure out what is going to fix the problem, right? And what are we going to do to move forward, right? So, step three is implement solutions into processes that address the challenges. So it's one thing to find the problem, but then you have to implement a process, a documented process on what fixes that, that area of issue or whatever it may be. I don't know if anybody can still hear me. I'm seeing Otis is saying he's not getting any audio from me. Good. So we're getting some and some aren't getting it. Good. Okay. We're good. We'll keep going. Obviously, step forward in any good process or any good, project or whatever you're doing for any area, whether that be just in life in general, is you obviously need to track, the measures and to ensure the success of the solution. And that may be hard to do right now, but why not test some of the, processes that you're implementing into your organization that can help ensure the success of that solution before you get, full-blown, wide-open business as normal. And then again, step five, make the solution part of your organization. So what I mean by that is you need buy-in from everybody This isn't, a dictatorship where I can walk in and say, hey, this is my company. I want to do it my way, and you're going to listen to me, and you're going to do it, or you can't work here, right? You won't get the buy-in of your people at that point. And the buy-in may not even be your individual employees. It may be your customers, right? So I want you to think about this from a wide open perspective of some of your challenges may be some challenges that your customers are facing that you have to implement solutions and processes to help address those challenges for your customers, track the solution that went through, and then make the solution part of your organization. So that can be a challenge, So again, we want everyone to use their time wisely, and instead of taking this as downtime. And there's an article that went out on Forbes the other day that talked about right now video game sales. I want to say it was marijuana sales, alcohol sales, and porn sales are at an all-time high, for the country, and that goes to show you that people are not using their time wisely. And if you're furloughed from your company, what not a better time to work on self-development? Read a book, read 2 books, and start thinking about what you're doing each day to focus on positive steps and moving in a direction that you're going to benefit in the end. Because at the end of the day, if you pick up some self-development skills that get you better as a person, that will then obviously convey over into your business, your job, whatever you do. If you're a stay-at-home mom and you want to work on some self-development, what not a better time to do it, right? Now you get to become a teacher, right? You get to become the principal. So you're going to have to work at that, right? Because a lot of our moms out there, and probably dads too, that they've not used to doing that, and now we're doing that. So that's something to think about and use your time wisely, So here at In-Telecom, we follow some basic steps in our meetings and when discussing things. And then we have what's called IDS, and that's usually the focus of our meeting, and that's identify, discuss, and solve. Because if you look at a lot of meetings out there today, a lot of times it's spent identifying and then discussing, but then we don't get to solve, right? So really, in the end result, you should want to fix the problem and put a permanent fix in place. Now, that always doesn't happen in the first go-around. So why not implement some of these steps and to think about, whether it be, your marriage, your department, whatever it may be, is sit down, get your group together, and let's write down our problems and let's prioritize. So you can't fix everything at one shot. Remember that. A lot of times what people try to do is they try to go take on more than what they can chew, and you got to take small bites, and it's small steps and improvement and moving forward. So use the time right now to write down your problems. Start prioritizing what those problems may be. You may just be a sales rep for a company that you don't feel like you're performing to your best ability. Start writing down, what your problems are. Start prioritizing what you need to fix and where you need to get to. Be honest with yourself and have some self-accountability. Discuss those hot items in a group setting, whether that be with your peers, your boss, whatever it may be, right? Have those conversations and then start working on putting a plan in place to fix the problem moving forward, right? Solve it. And then track, are you solving the problem? Because again, if you think about it, and I use this term a lot in my own organization, it's poor planning equals poor performance, right? So, set a date to it, put a concrete date of when you're going to start. Start today. Sit down, start writing it down, review the information to understand, is your plan going to work effectively, right? Start implementing your plan to ensure you win each day, right? Win the day every day, small bites, right? This isn't you can't fix it in one day. It didn't get broken in one day. So, and again, your plan should monetize to revenue for your organization or / department, right? So what that means is if you're implementing a plan with efficiencies, right, you should generate better customer service or better technology that increases efficiencies somewhere down the line within your department or your organization, right? It's going to monetize into revenue for the organization. And good leaders will recognize that and see you doing that and taking those next steps and taking that initiative to get to the place. So, again, the planning is key, right? Executing is key, and then use your time now wisely to start working on these things. Don't sit at home and watch Netflix. right? Don't sit at home and stare at the news and a bunch of negativity. Focus on what you can do moving forward to work on your business to get there. And that doesn't necessarily have to be derived into technology, right? That can be just standard processes and operating procedures for your organization. And that's just been some of the things that we're doing internally, is working on individual departments one by one. And we've challenged, one of the first things we did, this was about 4 weeks ago, when we recognized this was coming down the line, we took each department head and had them come in and start writing down what their problems were and what the challenges they were facing. And even got feedback from the individual people in the department, so we can start tasking ourselves to what we can do to fix those things and what we can do to get to a place that we can use the downtime effectively, right? So again, if you can use the downtime right now that we never have in our organizations or in our departments, right, we can come back that stronger of an organization. And I know it's hard to sit down and think about working on the things internally and working on that internal growth. So I see some people losing some sound again. I don't know if Carol's got us back. So, again, main concept of this section of this webinar is, again, use your time wisely. Start working toward what your end goal may be. If you don't know what that is, start writing it down. Start thinking about that from your department perspective. Start thinking about that even from your customer perspective. If you're picking up the phone and having conversations with your customers, you may not be able to offer them the support of what you can sell them, but you'll be that much more of an asset to them, moving forward. And again, you're ensuring the success of your clients and customers is super important, because they are going to be the success for you, right? Again, and without successful customers, you as the organization or the department cannot be successful. So make sure you're focusing on those things and staying in line with those things. And this isn't something to do now, right? And stop because of downtime. This is something you should implement as part of life in general. And again, if you start doing this on a weekly basis, I assure you that in those small chunks and you start fixing those things, you'll get to a place where you start looking at it and saying, wow, the impact's happening. And I know it sounds silly and it's hard to do sometimes and stay consistent, but again, stay consistent on working on these things, utilize the downtime to move forward and get going. So, our next topic, obviously, we're going to jump back into, managing the chaos. A lot of people are down right now as far as activity of what's going on in the organization. They may be at a complete shutdown. So some things to think about when transitioning back into day-to-day operations. There's a whole slew of problems that we don't even understand right now that we're going to be facing as organizations moving forward. Is, just think about your people in general, right? At the end of the day, most organizations have lost momentum. From what I've seen in the past and working with several clients over the past 11 years, is that when the organization starts to lose momentum, people can lose momentum. And when people lose momentum in their day-to-day, and they're used to being in their at their house watching Netflix all day, right? And when they come back to work, they're going to be a slow transition, right, into getting back. And if you have a backlog of work, right, how does that look? So that's some things to start thinking about. And I was thinking about this today, and what companies should do is take what's coming ahead when you can open your business back up full throttle, and use it as almost like a grand opening and a reconnecting with all of your people and making sure that you're talking to them and keeping them engaged and make sure they're okay, right? Some might not feel comfortable coming back to work because they don't want to be around people. They don't want to touch doors, right? They don't want to go anywhere. People are scared because of this. So that's some of the things to take into consideration, that you should probably start slowly transitioning back in. Even though you might not be the most productive, right? You can at least start doing some testing to see how things are going to operate. One of the main things, we thought about is are your employees coming back to work? When's the last time you had a conversation with your departments or with your peers or your groups? And again, you don't have to be a leader to go take this initiative. Is why not start having, everybody's getting some background noise. That cleared up. Does that sound better? I don't know if I got some background noise. Good. Okay, good deal. So start thinking about having weekly meetings. We did, a thing the other night for the organization, that Katie had put together, and we did a bingo session via our, meetings online. So it was a lot of fun, and we got to have, some conversations with our employees, and I've been trying to make sure that I'm having conversations with the groups and people and ensuring that we're staying engaged. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a meeting regarding work, right? It should be a meeting on just how are you doing? How are things going? Let them know what's going on in your department. Let them know what's going on in your business. Keep them engaged. So the main concept is if you're not engaging your employees right now, you should. So start keeping them engaged in the business and what's going on. Keep them involved in some of the transitions. If you're shifting your business model and moving forward to something that's going to be relevant to moving forward in the way business will be conducted, get them comfortable there. I even started internally, we have some people in the office, about 75% of our workforce is remote right now, but we're even doing, video meetings internally when we're like in a separate office just to get comfortable with that. Because that may be a new way of doing business moving forward, that the clients don't want you to come to their office. They might not feel comfortable with you coming there if you're in that line of work. So again, you're going to have to start. And again, your customers are going to have to start getting used to having that type of transition as well. So maybe it's a check-in meeting just to see how they're doing, and you do a quick video call to get them comfortable with it. So if you're not using, that today, I encourage you to start. At minimum, pick up the phone and have a conversation. But I would say better yet, why not do a video call to get them comfortable with that and start understanding what that may be, as well as your customers. Get them comfortable with moving that transition. Most companies today, from what we see, and again, I know we're in the technology space, but a lot of people are moving that way. We did a council meeting for Ascension Parish that was a success through video meetings, right? And they're transitioning to where they're used to being in a room together to go over things, and this is something that's benefiting them moving forward. And maybe this is a new way that they do it. Maybe organizations start moving this way because you don't have all these people that show up late, and you don't have to get people on the road and deal with that. So again, I encourage you to start implementing these practices into your organization, whether that be, obviously we sell a product, but again, if you want to use Zoom, do something to at least get that face-to-face with your employees, with your customers, and start having that. And then think about what employees are coming back to work. I will tell you that just talking to some customers here recently, and what unemployment at $870 a week, there's some employees that don't want to go back to work, right? Because they're making more now than they were making in their own organization. So, clearly they're not committed, but at the end of the day, you still got to think. That's something to think about in that transition, is who's coming back to work. Start game planning that, start having those conversations, internally. I would even say checking on your vendors, making sure your vendors are healthy. I know, me and Brett's one of our vendors with Jenny, we talk a lot, and not just talking about business, just on a personal level, just to see how each other are doing and what's moving forward. We want to understand what's going on in their world too. So that's something to think about from your vendor perspective, to ensure that they're healthy and that they're ready to come back to support you full swing. When you come back to open it up, do you still have the same staff to support your client base? So those are things to really take into consideration, to really understand if it's going to be like that. Let's see here if I can get this slide deck to work for me. There we go. Did I skip one? No, we didn't. All right. So this is another thing to think about it, and this does come back to technology, but this is something I think a lot of people skip on. Right now, most companies, their workforce is remote, and they're at home on their home network. Their kids are playing Fortnite or Call of Duty or just getting on their work computer and clicking on things that they shouldn't be clicking on. So with cybersecurity in mind, or even just, patch updates and updates to the user's PC if they're not able to do that remote, what does that look like? So think about your technology and your transition back into the workplace of now you're going to have to onboard this person back into the organization. If you're not setting up a way or a process to start scanning these devices before they go in and get back on the network, you should. And you should document that process, and you should have the utmost, leadership following you in that same way to ensure that those things are happening. So, because the worst thing that you can do is think everybody just has been out and they come in and they power on everything, and next thing you know, we're having issues. We have patches that haven't been done, or you have, a hacker that's got into this machine and now it's brought into the network. And look, hackers are smart. They'll wait and know when that user is going from home back into the work environment. And if you haven't scanned that device to really make sure it's clean, what does that, transition look like? The worst thing you can have happen is bring all your employees back into work and everything's moving good. And next thing you know, you're shut down because of a cybersecurity attack, ransomware or whatever it may be, or just a bunch of updates that just didn't happen and now you can't support your base. So again, something to think about, something to implement that a lot of people probably aren't concerning themselves with, but this is real. This really happens. Most people don't have the proper endpoint protection at home. They feel like they're using VPN connections and they're safe. That is not the case. So do recognize that. So again, I would highly encourage everyone to think about that with employees coming back to work and just them coming back into work with technology in mind. Maybe you implemented something like we just discussed on the video side that you want to start making that part of your business or department. Think about that. Think about what that training looks like. Think about what it's going to look like to sit down with that person and go over with it and ensure that they understand how to use it and that they're bought in with it as well. Because I think that's super important for your teammates to be bought into what you're doing. Because again, it's a group effort in order to get there. So, just something to think about to scan these devices and make sure that you are scanning them in some form or fashion. Antivirus is not the end all. Trust me. We have clients that have the best antivirus that still get hacked. So definitely something to think about and something to look at, with COVID-19 emails going out. And if you guys want any examples, you can send us an email. We can send you some that we've even been getting as a technology organization to pay attention to, so your employees don't click these things that, these hackers are smart. They're paying attention to what is going on out there and getting extremely intelligent and finding ways to get your staff or, even leadership to click on things they shouldn't click. So be cautious. The next thing, and I think this is extremely, extremely important for any type of business, is managing the backlog of work. We're a project-heavy company, and we've had about 37 projects get put on hold right now, and we're still bringing on projects as we speak today. So something to think about is that how are you going to manage that backlog of work? Right? If you're a dental office and you've been closed and now you open back up and you just have a ton of workload to do, right? And everybody's trying to get their teeth cleaned and get back in for their appointments. What's that look like, right? If you're a hair salon and now you're picking up your backlog from everybody wanting to get their hair done, right? Something to think about. Think about ways to use technology to streamline or automate processes that you can fix these things, right? Some things to think about is managing call flow, right? How are you going to manage call flow? How are you going to pay attention to the missed calls because you're coming back short-staffed and your backlog's high? You got a lot of people calling in, trying to schedule appointments or whatever it may be, trying to get work done. If you're a construction company and they're opening back up construction sites and money starts flowing, right? How is that going to work? How are you going to manage that? So again, you want happy customers, you want happy employees. Think about ways for to manage that chaos coming back in and utilizing technology to do that. There's so many different ways that you can manage that process to streamline things and automate things. Pay attention to it, right? Pay attention to how you're going to use your marketing efforts to come back into work and to manage that backlog of work, to constantly communicate with your clients, right? Think about project management. How are you going to manage these projects? Were you having problems before, and now you're going to move back in, and you haven't spent the time to work on some of these things, and now you're going back in, and you've got a ton of workload, and how do you manage it, right? A lot of businesses fail in these times because what happens is they get overwhelmed, and they can't support, and that's the worst thing you could do is not deliver. It's one thing to have the availability, but it's one thing to be able to deliver. I can tell you internally as a small business, we've dealt with that over the years. So it's tough, and it's a balancing act. It's kind of like that old picture of that lady that's holding up all the plates and spinning them all at one time, right? How does that look? Think about distributorships that are out there today that the workflow is not there, and they're going to get a backlog of projects that get kicked off, and they got to be able to meet supply and demand, right? If not, they'll go to another distributorship. Right, so these are things to really take into consideration to be having conversations moving forward to see what those look like. Think about your sales organization, right? They obviously have a backlog of meetings that they're going to have to go get back in front of those people. How are they going to do that? What CRMs are you using to manage that process today? Is bringing a video solution into your organization to be able to run more appointments in a day to cut down on travel time? Is that a way you continue moving forward, right? Do you need to bring on more staff? Right? Is that something to think about? Are you thinking about bringing on more staff? I will say this, there's going to be a lot of talent in the market right now looking for jobs. Companies aren't going to come back. Companies aren't going to be able to survive to the end of the year because of the cash flow issues and things of that nature. So again, think about that and managing that backlog. If you think about IT in general, there's going to be a lot of small IT companies that if you're a smaller company and you're using a one-man operation for IT and he gets a backlog of work, how's he going to support you? How's he going to get in there? How's he going to bring it in? So maybe it's time for you to start leaning on bringing on some help or finding a partner to partner up with to offset some things to kind of give you some leeway to where you can support your base. Because at the end of the day, it's one thing to drive revenue, but it's another thing to be able to support your base and again, like I said, be able to deliver. So again, this goes back to what we talked about a minute ago, keeping that employee or customer morale, use technology to communicate with your customers, your employees. We all are dealing with a lot of stressors right now. These are ways that we can eliminate some of that stress. Keep that open, constant contact. I'm not saying you should be calling your customers and pounding on them for receivables or pounding on them to buy more products, right? You should be reaching out to them just to see how they're doing, to make sure they're okay. Offer a hand, there's been several conversations that I've had over the last couple of weeks that really have nothing that pertain to my business that we've just lent a helping hand in some of the things that we're doing internally to benefit them, whether that be a book that we're reading, a meeting internally that we're having, and things like that. So it's truly, my background is I've always wanted to help people, and it allows me to go help and bring a helping hand. So, get involved in your community. Right? Start helping because you want to help. We got together with a group of entrepreneurs here locally and started feeding people and dropping things off, and helping out and doing everything which way we can. We've let, some of our clients borrow laptops, and we've even gone as far as going to grab PCs from people's businesses and bringing them to their employee's house and setting them up and running cable and getting cable ran in their house and all those different things, right? So again, keep your employee and your customer morale up, through these tough times. Support them, if they need, sales, if they need clients, help them get sales, help them get customers. Because again, at the end of the day, when your customers are succeeding, right, that's going to just generate back over to you in the end at some point, right? And that keeps the economy flowing, that keeps the revenue flowing. Think about some of the things from a local perspective and supporting locally, here in Louisiana. And if you can, try to keep it there, try to help out a local, business, whether that be going to order food or, buying something that you would normally buy on Amazon here locally, even though you might be paying a little more, right? That money's still generating back into the economy here locally, and that will come back to support you tenfold. So, and that'll keep the morale up, right? And again, you want to keep the morale up. It feels good to, I can tell you, we had a client, and I went out and bought a bunch of food for him for our office the other day, and she was so excited and so ecstatic to get this big order, and it just felt good to do it, right? And again, that's what it should be about, is supporting locally and keeping that morale up, and checking on your employees and making sure they're okay, checking on your peers. They don't necessarily have to be your employee. If it's your department or even just people that you work with in general, why not reach out to them to check on them to make sure they're okay? Because again, we can all be fair to say that we're all social creatures in some form or way, and we want to just talk, right? And we can't have that interaction that we have today. So do a bingo session with your group, right? Do a happy hour. I see people doing happy hours where everybody's getting together and drinking a beer and just conversating. So I think that's really cool, and I think that's something. I'm not saying I'm encouraging you to go drink, but at the end of the day, drink some lemonade and have a conversation, and just chat. And I think that's healthy, and I think that's extremely important to keep things as normal as they possibly can be. So, again, some things to take into consideration when going back to normal, make it an event, make it exciting, make it fun, because some people are not going to want to come back to work, right? Some people are not going to be happy to be back at work. They've enjoyed their extended vacation, right? So that's okay, right? Get them pumped up, get them excited, get them engaged. And I think that's, going back to the beginning stages of what you're using with this downtime, is getting them involved in the business is extremely healthy. We do that here at our organization. I think every single person's opinion matters, whether that be the front desk person to the person that does procurement and purchasing, all the way up into project management, sales, you name it. We want the feedback, from our employees to ensure the success. So again, make sure you're doing that and keep that, transition going well, and a healthy workplace, a healthy culture that breeds into your customers and into your employees. And that's extremely healthy just for stress in general. So, that's kind of, we'll jump into some Q&A. That's really, the meat and potatoes of this webinar, and we wanted to keep it high level. If you all have questions or concerns that you don't want to talk about on this, let us know. My email's here, my number's here, our website's here. You can reach us on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. And, if you got a question about some of the things that we're doing internally, again, this doesn't have to derive back to technology. Feel free to reach out. I would love to support each of you and everyone. Even if you have somebody that has some questions or needs some assistance, let me know. I would be more than happy to share my insight if you want the input and what's working for us as an organization. So I guess we'll open this up for Q&A. I don't know if anybody has any questions, anything they want to talk about. Maybe not. Thank you, Steve. Again, I hope all of y'all are doing well. It's kind of nice to see some faces, and get to see some people. It's fun always to. I love to talk, obviously, right? So this is kind of like my thing. So this excites me that we get to do this, And again, and I think it's healthy for peer groups, if you all want to get together and have a conversation as far as a peer group and what we can do, I think that's extremely healthy. I'll talk to a guy today that reached out to me via LinkedIn, that's in Chicago, just to kind of pick my brain and some of the things we're doing. And, and he's a competitor, and it was kind of like an open book discussion. And we talked about things that are working for us and things that were working for him. And I think I was able to impact him today. And he's a $50 million company, right? He's bigger than me. And I was kind of flattered that he's reaching out to me and asking me questions on what to do. And, I was kind of shocked. But again, you can always learn from somebody. I learn from customers every day, So CRMs, yeah. If you want to know some really good CRMs to use to think about managing, CRMs in your sales process. We use a product called Membrane. It's an incredible product that really focuses in on the sales process and your prospects and the full sales cycle. I think something to think about when you're doing your CRMs is focus on what your sales process is and what it looks like, right? You should be solution selling, not just selling products or services. You should be selling solutions that actually help people, right? You see Zig Ziglar going around, everybody's posting it, stop selling, start helping. That's the facts. If you shouldn't be just selling solutions. I talk customers out of spending money with me every day, all the time, because we don't want customers wasting money, right? We're in this for the long haul. I'm sure some of you that are clients on here, you've heard me say, we want to be we want to get married. We don't want to be the 2 a.m. girlfriend. We want long-lasting relationships that we're going to have struggles together in a partnership. We recognize that, and we want to work on those things together. And I think that's all goes back to CRM and focusing on the client, what you're using to keep that constant contact and working on your internal base, not just your external base. So, again, there's some other good ones out there. That obviously everybody knows Salesforce. Salesforce can be very robust and kind of pricey, but it is a good product. If it was me, again, I truly love Membrane, and I think Membrane is a good product. But you can even go back to using, say, a good old spreadsheet if you need to. You should have something managing in your clients and your potentials and how you're doing that and what it looks like moving forward, so you can forecast your sales ability and how you get there. Talking about the balance of working on the business versus in the business. So I've made this mistake for a very long time, and here recently it's kind of opened my eyes on what that really means. And what that means is get outside of the business itself and the day-to-day operation and truly start thinking about the culture and what's going on the business, right? Not physically in the day-to-day operation, right? What is your business healthy, right? Is it moving in the right direction? What's your growth path look like? Do you understand how to forecast? Do you understand what your true operating system is of your business, right? Again, I'm in the technology space, so I'll hit on this, is that, we all know that a computer has an operating system, right? Everybody uses, for the most part, everybody uses Windows, right? And everybody has that platform that you may use all these different software or products that run on the Windows application, right, that help you run your day-to-day. But at the end of the day, the back end is Windows. So, taking that in the perspective of business is think about what your operating system is. And it doesn't matter if you're a cake baking shop or a pawn shop or a nonprofit, whatever it may be. You should still have an operating system that operates for your business. And if you don't, start working on building that out today and what it looks like from a growth path. Take down your org chart, right? Or we call it here accountability chart. Think about what that looks like moving forward, right? And again, if you don't have a vision for what it looks like in the future, you're not dreaming big enough. Dream bigger, right? Think big, right? You can get there. If you would have told me, Sean, you'll be running a multi-million-dollar organization in the next 5 years when I first started, I would have called you a liar, right? But again, I always dreamed big. I always had a vision of where we wanted to go. And the vision wasn't about, again, obviously early in, I was at a young age. I was 25 years old. Yes, I was about making money. But then when I really started thinking about it and deriving into what true success, it really broke down into helping people, and then the income comes along with it. And helping people doesn't mean helping your customers only. It means helping your employees too. So again, think about that and think about working, on the business. What is your marketing plan, right? What does that marketing plan look like? Really start digging deep. What's your target customer? Right? What's your target customer look like? Not everybody's a good fit for every organization, and that's okay, right? Start thinking about, as that company starts to scale, how do you manage scalability, right? Can it scale, right? Be realistic with yourself, and think about this, is that if you were to start taking on a ton of business all at one time, how would you absorb all that business? And really, could you deliver, right? So these are things to think about right now with some of the downtime, is that from me and Steve had this conversation the other day talking about him scaling his business, and truly something to think about is that what's your next hire look like, right? Where's your next step? What's your next path? Where do the departments split, right? And again, start thinking about your organization and how it splits, and you're planning for the future and where it's going, because that's going to create success and a healthy organization, and that's what you want. You want healthy, and you want people to be able to manage what they can manage. It's funny. I had a guy tell me one day, he said, Sean, think about Coca-Cola, right? They're extremely successful, but they know this much of this much. And the reason they're able to be successful is because they're digesting small bites, right? And you got to be able to take your team and macro manage them in a way that you can get there. So again, definitely start thinking about working on the business, and use this time. And if you don't have time because you're really busy, because you're a one-man operation or a three-man operation, right? Make the time, right? Make it part of your week. Put it on the calendar, write it down, put it on your power list that you're going to focus on, one part of your day for 15 minutes at least. I say an hour, right? Or 90 minutes. But again, if that's all you can commit to, start getting there and working on it. So, Carol says, once the doors are reopened, we're looking at working from home due to physical separation, having to keep a distance from some workers, good to be forced. Again, I agree. Nobody knows. We don't know what that may look like, right? So they have to think about that as an organization, because Carol's organization still has to function. Carol's organization is a very, very important aspect to the history of New Orleans. So, that organization there can't just turn down, right? And they don't know what to do. So they may be working from a distance, right? So they're thinking about, they're in these buildings in the French Quarter, right, with close quarters because of how small they are, and they might have 2 people in one room, 3 people in one room even. So that's something to think about moving forward is how does that look? How are you going to separate, right? How are you going to keep that separation, right? There's going to be new rules that are coming into play with us moving forward. So again, that's something to definitely take into consideration and start planning for that. How are you going to separate your employees? How are you going to keep them segmented? It may look like you have to send some people home. Can your office even support that? Right? If you look at restaurants, for instance, right? If your restaurant's built to hold 100 people, maybe moving forward, you can now only hold 50. So what does that look like for you? You can only feed so many people at one time. You may need to start focusing on some delivery methods and ways to expand your facility. Maybe you need another location to support the demand, because people want to eat there. So again, people aren't going to sit outside the restaurant for 4 hours waiting. Again, you got to get to a point and start thinking about that. So, yeah, systems and processes are huge. I agree. Get them in line, work on them, document them, write them down. Make sure your team understands them. It's one thing for you to understand them, but everybody around you has to understand them as well. Integrating remote computers back into the internal environment, scan them. Get some type of scanning software that is going to scan that PC up and down to ensure that it's good to go. If you need help with that, we are more than glad to help. We have some tools that we use internally that can scan these things. We use a product called Sentinel-1. Sentinel-1 does scans on the machine, takes a second to load it. We can understand what's going on with the machine before we bring it back in and move forward. Again, you should have some type of endpoint protection today, not just antivirus with machines out there. Right? If you're not using that, I encourage you to get there. Reach out to your IT person. Reach out to us if that's us, someone else, get some form of endpoint protection standard. Antivirus is not enough anymore. So realize that and start doing that, and encourage best practices back to your employees when they're home. Don't let the kids get on a work machine playing around. Be cautious. Make sure you understand what's going on. If you're going to VPN into the network, be cautious on what's going on that internal network that can then feed back over into where you're going. I know we're kind of getting a little high level and technical, but again, it's just things to be cautious and be aware of when coming in. Yeah, Derek, spot on, man. Business processes as a starting point, map out where you go, right? Think big, think 5 years, 10 years, right? Think about where you want to go and what that end result looks like, right? Because again, we did not do that in the beginning stages, right? I will help you learn from my mistakes, and it does make it harder to scale, right? And it makes it difficult because you the future when you get consumed in the day-to-day. And again, that goes back to that practice of working on the business instead of in it and really forecasting the future. You kind of got to separate yourself and put the business in like the center of the donut hole, right? And it's even harder for owners, right? Because you got to take your owner hat off, right? And you got to put on the organization hat. And it's got to focus on the organization, not what's in the best interest of you as the owner or the employee or the board or the investors. It's what's healthy for the organization, right? And what you want it to look like in the future. You know, document what your typical customer looks like. That customer may be a certain size, a certain vertical, a certain spend, right? You may have to look at what are customers spending with you in your organization and eating up time and have to maybe release them. That's okay. Like, I think a customer will respect you knowing that you can't support them the way you want to do it because the revenue doesn't exist to be able to fit your model, right? Your model has to fit down to the customer, to the employee, to the vendor, right? It's all that one big culture and that ecosystem that flows together, right? And that's okay, right? It's okay to have that conversation with someone that it doesn't fit the model. And again, you got to do what's in best interest for the organization, right? And if the organization is trying to help people, right, you want to do it the way that is benefiting everybody as whole, right? It's all one big partnership that we work together as groups. So again, that's so important, you know, breaking down into business processes and some of the things that we've done here internally and even been, you know, privy to work with some other individuals that have done this. So spot on, Derek, and congratulations on your success, man. I saw you just, you know, moving along. So I think, you know, just watching you over the years, you've done an excellent job, man. So, you know, again, you know, if you have questions, if you just want to talk, you know, let me know. I'm not the smartest guy, but I've been around the block a few times over the last few years and been through the grind and the grit. And we're still in it every day, right? We're still grinding. We're still gritting it out. And again, I learned from my peers by picking up the phone and having those conversations. So again, I am more than willing to help anyone, anytime, whether that be just some internal processes in your organization that you want to work on. You know, I'm here to help. So I enjoy. I'm a fixer. I like fixing things. It's just kind of just in me. You know, I even notice it when I'm out and about. Sometimes I'll put my foot in my mouth because I'm quick to let someone know that I see something that can improve, and that sometimes can offend someone. So again, you know, if you want help, I'm here to help. I'm here to assist, and we can chat them out, and we can have a debate. And maybe you don't agree, you know, and let's debate it out. You know, I think that's healthy. You know, I think that's extremely healthy for any organization. So I guess we'll go ahead and get this thing wrapped up. I know we got about 5 minutes. I don't know if anybody has any other questions, any comments. Again, you know, feel free to let us know. I'll put my email down on here. I'm highly accessible via email. So I'm always available. I guess we are good and wrapped up. Well, again, you know, thank you all for tuning in, and we appreciate, you know, your time today. And stay positive, you know, and remember, wash your hands. Please wash your hands. So we're excited to see things coming back. So thank y'all very much. And we look forward to talking with y'all soon. I'm sure we will see some people very soon.